All right. Well, thank you for joining. This webinar is closed as far as audio goes, coming from you guys to me, just because we have so many people joining us. So if you have a question during the webinar, go ahead and put it right in the chat message in the GoToMeeting, and I'm going to go ahead and give everybody my email address. Just typing it in here. That way, if after the webinar, if you guys have any questions, you can contact me directly. And there you go. Okay, so yeah, let me go ahead and make sure that our recording is in progress. Looks like we're good to go. And like always, this webinar is going to be recorded, and it will be on our website under recorded webinars, under the it's like cockroachsys.com, and then there's a recorded webinar section, but there's also a product page section for Composer, and it'll be listed there under videos as well. And that's typically by the end of the week that's available. If you're trying to view it after the end of the week and you can't locate it, go ahead and shoot me an email, and I'll go ahead and make sure that that's posted for you guys. And let's go ahead and kick it off here. All right. Well, thank you for joining the Hawk Ridge System e-learning session for Get More Out of SOLIDWORKS Composer. My name is Scott Woods, and I'm the product manager for SOLIDWORKS Composer. So today we're going to be going over some of the tips and tricks of actually getting more out of the software than you typically would, you know, just poking around and stuff. So this will be more of the advanced tools and really suggestions that we make along the way here. So very first thing I want to talk about, excuse me, is importing files into Composer. So when you go and you open up Composer and you do a file open, you go to your SOLIDWORKS files, and you can bring in files directly that way. Another way to do it is to open up the files in SOLIDWORKS and to use the add-in for Composer and export that as an SMG file. So this method is going to be the preferred method, which is actually pulling into Composer directly, so you don't have to bother the person using SOLIDWORKS to actually export that. But both methods are very legit and work out well. In this method, we want to make sure that the assembly that we're bringing in is actually under that root folder or that root directory and not at the top of the tree. And I'll explain why that's important here in just a moment, but let me go ahead and show that. So first off, you just jump into Composer, and I'm going to load some SOLIDWORKS models right on the fly here. So it is going to take about a minute to load these models. So what you do is you open up Composer, go to File, Open, and here's the two key points. First, you want to make sure that Merge into New Document is selected. This is going to assure that anything you bring into Composer is going to be under the root directory and not at the top of the tree. And the reason why that's important is because if you have a SOLIDWORKS Composer document and you have an assembly at the very top of the tree, that document is tied to that assembly and nothing else. So if you were to bring in additional components into the Composer document, then later on you go to update with that SOLIDWORKS assembly. Since those additional components that you brought into Composer aren't in that assembly, they actually get deleted from the Composer document. So in order to keep everything that you do, all your work that you put into the Composer document, it's imperative that when you start a new component or a new document in Composer, you say merge into new document. And I'll explain that a little bit further detail once we actually import it. The second key point here is the merge file into one actor per part. If you've ever brought components into Composer and you go to put an annotation or a note on a component and it says, you know, fillet 32 or cut extrude 34 or something like that, that's because what's happening is you're actually bringing in the SOLIDWORKS bodies as individual components into Composer instead of each part in SOLIDWORKS is a part in Composer. And that's exactly what this is saying here. So it says merge file into one actor per part. So every SOLIDWORKS part will be an actor in Composer. That way all your metadata and your naming structures, they stay you know, what you would expect. Unfortunately, by default, this is unchecked. So you want to check that in your default settings, so going forward it's always checked. Alright, so this is my suggested setup here. We're going to go ahead and open up the SOLIDWORKS assembly, and let's go ahead and tell it to open. So what's happening right now is it's taking the SOLIDWORKS assembly and it's converting each one of those parts into Composer actors and compiling everything into an SMG file. So this is breaking all the file structure out from SOLIDWORKS into a copy in Composer. So anything that you do in SOLIDWORKS Composer is not going to modify your existing design in SOLIDWORKS. And anything you do in SOLIDWORKS is not going to be modified in Composer until you tell it to, which is nice, so it's not updating on the fly until you're actually ready for it to do so. Okay, so I just brought this assembly into Composer. So the first thing that I typically do is, depending on what I'm looking for, but I typically turn on perspective, which is down here, just to get myself a nice default view, because you can always turn that off later if you want some orthographic projections. If you go to render, mode, smooth with outline, it outlines the model. Even if all your renderings that you want to create, you don't want outlines, it's still a good idea to at the very beginning just to say smooth with outlines and then create a view. And what that does is it calculates all the edges of the model. So when you select a part, what your selection is going to be outlined in yellow or orange instead of the entire component glowing orange. If you've ever imported something and then selected it, and I should have shown that before I did this, but if I would have selected that right away, this component would glow orange, all the surfaces, everything, and it's really hard to set decals, to change colors, things like that because it's glowing bright orange. So all you do is you say mode, smooth with outline, that calculates all the edges. When you select it, we can still see the color shining through, and it's highlighting those edges instead of the model surfaces. Okay, so now that we have a view, let's go ahead and check out the assembly tree. And I just want to show everybody that here's my root directory, and then here I have this 300 RC boxer under that root. That way, when I go to update this document, I can update just that assembly instead of everything in the tree. And the way you do that, which we'll go through here in just a moment, is you say assembly selection mode, which is right here. You select that assembly, you know it's selected because it turns bright blue on screen, almost neon blue. And then you go to file, update, and you can update that. Right now my update's grayed out because I haven't saved this file. So let me go ahead and do that now. I'm just going to go ahead and save it to my desktop. So if you ever see that update grayed out, it's just telling you, hey, you're dealing with a document that hasn't been saved, so you're not able to update it. Okay. One more thing I'd like to do to this list is just let's add something under here. There's no real point of what I'm doing here of adding. I just want to show everybody how that's done. That way when we see it update, we can actually see we can update independently. So what I'm going to do is file, open, merge into current document. So file, open, merge into new document is starting. File, open, merge into current document is bringing anything in here. If you just do a file, open, and direct open right here, that's going to put it under the root, or not under the root, but at the root level. And in that case, you have a document that's tied specifically to that assembly. You can always save that SMG to a location, open up Composer, say file, open that SMG, and merge that into a new document, and we'll get exactly what you're seeing here. So if you do accidentally just do a file open, or if you have files that have been done like that in the past, we can convert them to this structure just by simply opening up that SMG and merging it to a new document, and you get the exact same outcome. So there's a way to, there's a way to bring in those older ones that you've done that way and get away with it. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's just bring in a file here, and I don't know, we'll just bring in one of these parts here. Merge into current document, merge file into one actor per part, open. And I just randomly chose a file just to show how this is done. Okay, and there it is right here. So we toggle it on just by selecting it, and I just want to pull it out just so we can see what it looks like. Alright, so now in this document I have a root level, And then I have a 300 boxer level with this, which is that entire subassembly. And then I have an additional assembly here, or additional part, that is this 300 or 3008 liner, which is just a component that's also in this assembly. However, if I updated this part, I can update this part independently by saying I want to select it here, File, Update, select that component, update it by itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and save the document, and let's jump back to our PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Again, this is going to be recorded, so it's online and be able to review it, because I know it is a lot of new data, especially if you're new to this, working this way in SOLIDWORKS Composer. But basically, this is good and this is bad. So if you see your assembly at the top level, just know that anything you add to your document, don't get attached to it, because once you update, it's going to be deleted. Once it's under the root like this, you can add anything you want, and it's going to remain there until you delete it or until you update it. But you have a lot more control over the document, and it's just one of those things that this is what I recommend. If you just use the default settings out of the box, it's going to put it at the top. So it's just kind of one of those things that just watch out for and kind of create a workflow to do it this way. Okay, so let's go ahead and show some of the cool tools in Composer, and hopefully I'll show something that you guys haven't seen yet. And basically I want to show in detail the digger tool, the detail tool, and then also how to create styles. I've been really surprised on, you know, we do customer visits and stuff, and how often I see people using Composer and doing everything manually all the time. You know, creating an arrow, creating an annotation, going into the properties and adjusting those properties individually for every single part, for every single two-dimensional actor, when you can create a template and reuse that over and over again. So I want to go ahead and share that with everybody, and hopefully it saves you guys some time. Okay, so first thing, let's jump back into here. And I want to utilize these tools to actually create some views, because I'm going to go ahead and update this at the end with a modified version of this assembly, and we'll show everything, how we update the digger tool, how we update the detail tool, and and also to show what automatically updates during a project update. Okay, so first off, I want to hide this guy. That's H on the keyboard, little shortcut tool, just click it, hide it. What that does is it just unchecks it from the tree, so it's not there anymore. It still exists, it's just invisible. Alright, so let's give this guy a little rotate, create a new view. Digger tool. What you do, and this little trick here, is you select anywhere in the viewport that isn't a model, just anywhere in this white space. If you click it, and then hit spacebar on your keyboard, the digger tool will pop up right where you clicked. If you ever are hitting spacebar or going up to home, trying to toggle in the digger tool here and it's not showing up, it's because you haven't selected anywhere for it to show up in the viewport, or where you selected is off your screen and it's just popping up somewhere where you can't see. Get that quite often. People are like, it's just it's gone, you know, we can't bring it back. It's just you click and it pops up right there. I just clicked right there, tab or spacebar, and there it is. Okay, so what I want to do is just take this digger tool and I just want to drag it somewhere where I have some room to put it. This little guy on the left, kind of bottom left, is a resize. So this is going to size the tool so we can position it somewhere and put it somewhere that it actually fits. Now, off the bat, when you bring the digger tool up, it acts as a magnifying glass. That's just kind of its default settings. Just by moving it over, you can kind of use it to look at deeper detail of the model. But by dragging it off to the side and hitting this little wrench up here in the corner, gives you some tools on the top and bottom in order to control this tool. Now, the trick with pointing the digger tool at a specific location is this little plus sign. You actually have to click and drag it. By clicking and dragging it, I'm actually dragging this to a location that we can go ahead and set that, something like that. If you just click it, nothing happens, right? You have to actually click and drag it as you would, you know, if you were moving an icon around your desktop or something like that. Okay, so we've clicked and drag it to this location here. Again, it's still acting as a magnifying glass. On the right here, when it's in magnifying glass mode, which is this mode right here at the top left, we can use it to zoom in and out on the model. Thumbing through these other options here, this one at the very top, this is called onion skin mode, and what this is doing is it's taking away layers. If you can imagine a plane that's perpendicular to your current view, and you're pushing it away from you into the model, and as that plane touches components, it makes them disappear as you are moving it through until you can get to specific components. This little lock button right here, I don't know why it looks like a lock, but if you lock it, it changes the way that this plane acts. And it's actually quite hard to explain the way that it works. To me, it almost like it makes it so there's two planes in the middle of the model, and as you expand this, one plane comes closer to you, and the other one goes further away, and you can actually start making components in the middle of the model disappear. And this little lock tool for all of these modes does something a little different. So it's one of those things that's really hard to say this is exactly what it does. You just kind of have to play with it, toggle it on and off until you get that look exactly how you want it. The next one is X-ray mode, and it does the exact same thing as the onion skin, but you can still see these components. You'll see that they're still there. It's kind of X-rayed out, so you know something's there, but they're not in detail. And again, the lock tool is going to do the same thing. And if you're like, don't really like that, unlock it. Kind of toggle between the two to get how you want. Okay. And the last one, this is a cutaway. And it takes that plane that's hiding components and just using it as a cut plane. So really all of these tools are behaving the same, they're just displaying something different. Let me just do a cutaway view in the model. Something like that. Alright, so I want to do onion skin, and let's go ahead and, I don't know, we'll do something like this. And if I go ahead and I click this little icon right here at the bottom, it's going to rasterize that view. If you look, it's quite fuzzy, and I can actually make that a bit better. So I'm going to create a new view just to kind of save my spot, and I want to make this digger tool more clear. So if you go into the workshop, workshop's high resolution image, and this is something that if you're not told that it behaves this way, you probably wouldn't know. And so it's one of those things that kind of just stumbled upon on accident, and it's now in our new training class and everything, but it's one of those little hidden features. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I want 2400 pixels by 600 dpi. And just by changing it here, if I click the digger tool, just double click it, re-rasterize it to clean that up, it's a bit cleaner. And you can see those fuzzy edges that are especially around these bolts are just a lot more crisp. So again, a little trick there just to make those digger tool images look a bit nicer. To remove the digger tool off your screen, you hit spacebar, and all it leaves is this rasterized image. I'm going to go ahead and create a new view to just lock that down. Now, if later on you want to show different digger tools, delete this one, move it around, and maybe it's not apparent, it's not visible on screen, you go to Collaboration, Panels, and it's right there. It's actually considered a 2D image after you rasterize it. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a vectorized detail view. And the vectorized detail view is hidden under Workshops and the Technical Illustration. And it's right here. It's kind of in its silly little place that, again, you would probably end up overlooking if you didn't know it was there. But I guess it does make sense because this is a vectorized publication panel. So it has its reason for being here. So right here under Detail View, you just check that, and right away you get this circle on screen. And the trick here is before you do anything is to go to Views and to create a camera view. By creating a camera view, this will lock down the current camera angle so you can get back to it. So if you're zooming in and out, rotating, whatever you need to do, we can come back exactly where we are now without messing that up. So what you do is you zoom in and you rotate, you do whatever you want, but basically you're trying to get a model centralized in this circle. Once that circle has once your model that you want to vectorize is in that circle, you go up here and under Technical Illustration Workshops and you hit Create. So what that's going to do is it's going to develop a vectorized, basically digger tool, vectorized version of this view. And that's right here at the bottom. You can see that calculating the lines. And we got it there. And so here's our vector image. Now before you do anything else, you double click the camera view that you made and then create a new view. And then uncheck detail view here to toggle that off. And so now we're back at our camera view. We have our panel. Because it is vector, we can scale this however we want, and we're not going to lose quality. It's going to adjust the attachment, something like that. And we have vectorized drawing. The vectorized, let me go and update that view. The vectorized detailed view behaves the same as the digger tool as far as being able to select it later on. Going into the collaboration, and it's actually going to be, I think it's under panels as well. Yep, right here. So it's a vectorized image 2D panel. So we'll see that here is our 2D digger. I always recommend to name these because if you have 500 images here, it gets a little difficult later on. A little trick to rename, you just click on the file, hit F2, and it'll automatically start renaming. You just start typing. That's always better than clicking, waiting, double clicking. Come on, you know, the whole Windows, I can't even do it. Here we go. It works sometimes where you kind of do a little double click wait and then it starts modifying it. I just hit F2 from now on just because it's so much easier to modify. Okay, so we have our panels, we got our detail view, we have our digger tool. Also in the detail view, if you select it, it is vector. So you come in here, you can change your line thicknesses, your coloring, all sorts of stuff in the properties, which is actually a good segue into my next topic here, which is styles. So if I wanted, when I made this panel, if I wanted it to be a specific line weight, specific rendering style, coloring, whatever, I could actually set up a style that when I activate that style, I create detailed views and it's going to give me all that information. Let me go ahead and show this in a little bit more simplified form, just in case anybody here is new to styles. What you do is you go to, well, let's jump into the styles tabs. These are all the existing styles that I have in my installation. A lot of these I made, and so if you look at your panel, it might look a little different, but we can go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and show how to make these so you can make whatever you need. So what you do, the easiest way to do, I'll say, there's many ways to make a style, so we could go talk about this for quite a while, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the easiest way to do it. You go to author, and then you create the item that you want to add, that you want to create this style template for. In this case, I want to create a style template for labels. So I'll say label. If I want it to be arrows, I would create an arrow, you know, a balloon, image, whatever I wanted. That's what I would create this, this starting off kind of label or whatever for is what I'm actually going to be creating the style for. Alright, so label, and let's go ahead and just, I don't know, I'll select that component there and place the label. So by default style that's currently active is saying to be this certain font, this certain size, this certain border, this certain attachment. And if I like the way that that looks, great. I don't have to create a style for annotations, for labels, because it's exactly how I want it. If I don't like it, I select it, and just like you would typically do, hold on a second. I think that I actually had a style active. So if you ever click on like an annotation and you don't get all these options, it's because your annotation is currently subscribed to an existing style. If you don't want that subscribed, you click it, you go in the style tabs and you say unsubscribe, and that will break the attachment, that subscription. Right here I have auto subscribe toggled on. By default that's toggled off. If you toggle it on, that means whatever style you currently have active, whenever you create a node or annotation or balloon or arrow, whatever you're making, is actually going to automatically subscribe it to that style. And that style is in its own style file. So if you open up that file and modify it, any documents that are referencing it are going to update. Now that could be ideal, or that could be dangerous if you don't want to update older documents. So just, if you want them subscribed, turn auto subscribe on. If you want to be able to control each document independently, have it toggled off. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and have it on. I'm going to say this annotation. Let's go ahead and change it. Let's say the text color. Maybe we don't want black. Maybe we want like a dark blue. The font, I don't know. Let's go ahead and hit these three little dots here. We'll change it to something a little bit more modern. Maybe 14 point font. Let's go ahead and turn that font up, something like that. Make it nice and big. Let's go ahead and see the attachment type. Let's go ahead and do that arc because we have it going on here, just to keep things a bit more consistent. Shape is a rectangle. Maybe I want that to be an ellipse, or whatever I wanted, a circle. Let's go ahead and go with that ellipse. Okay. One more thing, my color. So here we go. Attachment, shape, color right here. And let's go to, I don't know, let's go to a real light blue or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to create a new view just to lock that down, kind of save my current spot here. And say that I loved this annotation. It's kind of ugly, but let's just pretend that it's fabulous here. And we want to make that our default annotation or label style. So every time I create a label, that's what it's going to look like. So what I do is I go to Workshops and I go to Styles. Click the label or whatever it is that you want to set as default. Then up here at the top of Styles, we want to go ahead and say New. So you say New Style, and I'm going to say Delete Me just so I remember to get rid of this later. But you just name it whatever you want. And then if you look on the list here, everything is grayed out. And I encountered this when I first did this, where I'm like, okay, well, it's all grayed out, so I can't click on anything. And I didn't even try. And it's one of those things, it's like, it's grayed out until you select the box next to it. So don't be fooled that it's grayed out, that it's unavailable. It is available. You just click it, and then it becomes active. And so that's what's going on here. So basically what you're doing here is you're checking or unchecking boxes to control what this style is saying. What this style is controlling in the annotation, that's what these are toggling on and off. So if I want to go ahead and say, you know what, I really like the color of this text, so I want to save that. We'll say color, it's going to pull that blue from what we did here in the properties. If I like the font, the size, what it's pointing at, right now it's pointing at the actor tooltip, which is the file name. If I wanted, I could go ahead and say, you know, that's actually looking at a different metadata property or a customized string or something like that. And then it will change what this annotation is saying, what it's pointing out. See, I really like that arc attachment, you know, the color of the attachment, and also the shape here, that ellipse. So, and there was also one other, what did I do? Text color, or not text color, but it's the shape. There we go. Shape. Okay, I got it. Okay, cool. So I went ahead and selected some options, and so whenever I am creating annotations, these are the options it's going to select. You don't have to save the style, you just close that and it automatically saves. If I go to my Styles tab and I kind of thumb through these, I should be able to find it here. What do I call it? Delete Me. There it is right there. So now I have this delete me. Oh, delete me. I want to right click that, set as default. So I have this, let's make sure. See this little star right there? So that's saying that right now that's set as default. And any annotation I create is actually going to use this style. So now if I go to author, I'll do a label. Let's go and click something, and it didn't use it. Hold on a second. I can see that this is still set as default here. There we go. Okay, so I just double clicked it here. So now if I were to do another label, oh, it's still wanting to use that other one as the something like that. You'll see that I didn't when I use this, I didn't check the checkbox for the color inside the shape. So it's using the shape, but it's not using the color that I specified here. So in your styles, you have full control over saying, I want to take this property, I want to ignore this property, something like that, to actually toggle in between what you're looking for and what you want that style to control. So sometimes it's better to control a little bit less than full control, because when this is applied to that style, like if I were to select this one here, we'll see that it's actually pushing. Oh, let me go ahead and make sure that delete means applied. And then when I select it, we'll see that all of these controls are actually being controlled by that style. Just like that. And so this one here, because this style isn't controlling the color, I can actually come in here and I can change that color later. If I would have specified that style to control that color, I click on this and this option would be gone, and I wouldn't be able to change the colors as annotation no matter what I wanted to do. The only way I'd be able to change it if I selected it, I say unsubscribe, and then I get all the other options back in the properties here. So controlling that style too much can limit what you're trying to do later. So just keep that in mind and kind of play with it and get a happy, medium of what properties you're actually trying to control in that style. Alrighty, so let's jump back here and let's go ahead and wrap this up with an update. So I have a SOLIDWORKS version of this engine that is a bit different. The heat sinks on the sides for the cylinders are green. They're a bit bigger. I think they have some holes cut into them. The filter here is a bit larger. Kind of see it. It's a little bit wider, longer. The muffler is a bit bigger as well, and also has like a hole cut into it. This one's more solid for this was like a unfinished model. Alright, so going back to our document, let me go ahead and save it. And one last thing I would like to do is I just want to create a quick, like step-by-step assembly instruction of some sort here so we can actually see that update. So to kind of walk everybody through how you would create something like this, it's actually pretty easy. What you do is we want to hover our mouse over a component and hit tab. That will hide that component, and if there's some screws or something underneath there, you'll be able to select them. So now that I've hid that component, I can select these guys. I'm just going to go ahead and drag them out, something like that, and then create a view. Now if I select this guy, drag it out, and create a view, something like that. If I wanted to, do some kind of attachment, I can take these components that I just translated out. If you go to Author, Path, create associated path from neutral, and then we'll take these lines and bring it back. And you'll see that by default, my lines are going through the model. They're red, and there's this dot dash dot, because that's what I have set my style up for my default lines. If I select these, you'll see that my style is all grayed out because I actually have these subscribed to a style, or I'm sorry, my properties here. So if I wanted to change them, I'd want to go to Style, Unsubscribe, and now I have full control over what I want these lines to do. So if I want to say stay on top, I can do that, and then I'll be able to see them through the models, stuff like that. So if you ever get into the situation where you click on something and your properties are all limited, it's because it's applied to a style, and you want to go ahead and unsubscribe that in order to make some changes to it. Okay, so now that we have some changes, just some models being translated out, just wanted to show something for this update. Now, I want to update this assembly. I go to Assembly, the Assembly tab. I click on Assembly Selection Mode. I select the assembly that I want to update. And then I do a File, Update, SOLIDWORKS Composer document. So here is my original engine in SOLIDWORKS. And I have another folder here for a modified version of that. And there it is right here. So I want to go ahead and make sure that any options you have on during import are the options that you have on during update. So I always suggest that when you're updating something, or even when you're importing something, you don't adjust any of these settings. These settings should be adjusted in your default document settings. That way, 6 months from now, you don't have to think back, okay, what settings did I use? Well, it should always be consistent. There are specific, situations where you need to change something, and that should be documented somewhere so later on you know exactly what options were used. But I shouldn't have to worry about these because This should be my default settings, which is that merge file into one actor per part I have toggled on. Inside my SOLIDWORKS option here, if I had additional configurations, I could choose those to update instead. And let's go ahead and say update. So what that's going to do is it's going to take all the new models and it reviews what is currently in Composer and updates, and anything that I did in the view tab is going to be reapplied to these new models. So it's actually replacing models and then reapplying all my settings. So quite a bit is going on during an update, and Composer does a really good job of assigning that update. If you've ever updated something and got undesired results, like coloring or something didn't quite come through, what's happening is, and I'll go ahead and show this here. Let me go ahead and go to my first view. What's happening is if you click on a model, let me turn off that assembly selection mode. If I click on a model and I said that this is set to the neutral property, what that means is that when you bring a model from SOLIDWORKS into Composer, that SOLIDWORKS model has a neutral property. If you assign a neutral property to a component, it's saying, hey, whenever I update, look at that neutral property and reassign it to this model, no matter what I did in Composer. So I could turn this model red. So see in Composer, I made it red. I made it, I did an environmental effect of like aluminum or something like that. But the neutral properties was set, and I chose that neutral property. And when I update from SOLIDWORKS, it looks at that neutral property. It would reassign it green. It would eliminate that effect that I put on there. And if that's something that you want to retain, you don't want to be reset back to default, what you want to do is you want to create a view, typically the first view, like a default view. You make all your changes, color changes, whatever, and then don't set it as a neutral property. Just save the view and be done with it. That way later on, after you update and things change, you can go to that view, you can click on the component, and you can actually, and I'll just do a quick little example of this. Let's say in this view, say this part is red, and I go back here, and it needs to be green, but that view is red. What you do is you select it, you control select the other view, and you do this update views as selected actors, push that to that component, and if you go here and it's green. Now that's going to push all properties, not just that green. So if you only want to control the green, there's other ways of doing that. Easiest way is to do something like this, turn it back red, and you would say, okay, green, we have this color green. Now you would assign that to the neutral property. So this is a bug that is in SOLIDWORKS 2014 that hopefully will be resolved here pretty soon. Sometimes it thinks that you're in project mode and it doesn't want to assign neutral properties. It's not the case. If I were to save this, just save the document, close it, and reopen it, it won't show me that option. It is a bug. So if you get that little pop-up saying, hey, this has components I'm referencing outside the document, it should be fixed here real soon. So let's pretend like that didn't happen. All right, so I want to say that green is the neutral property, so we set it. See, now it worked this time. And I go here and I restore neutral property, it turns back green. I update only this view. I don't want to update view after setting that as a neutral property, because if I did, then that property would be set in this view and that would be a permanent change to that view that I don't want. So again, little tip there. Hopefully that made sense to most people. Again, if you haven't experienced that problem, that probably didn't make a whole lot of sense why I went through that, but if you have experienced it, hopefully you'd benefit from that little explanation. Okay, so jumping to these views, we'll see how things have updated. But then if I go to this digger tool and it's not updated, that's because it's a rasterized tool. What you have to do is double click it, activate the tools, hit this little guy right there, and then just hit spacebar and that updates. So unfortunately the digger tool is a manual update. The good part about it is you can actually update it. Previously you couldn't update it. It was something that it was a permanent change. You'd have to redo the digger tool. I can also take this adjusted digger tool and I can push it to any of these other views that have the digger tool just by selecting it, selecting them, and then saying update views with selected actors. And just like that, any view that has this digger tool will then be updated. So again, it's unfortunate that it's a manual change, but at least we can fix it that way. If this part changed, we could update it too. And unfortunately, it didn't change, so I can't really show that. But what you do is you go back to the technical illustration, click on the vectorized drawing, and you just say update. And that's going to update all of them. So that's a real easy change. You just click on it, say update, and that updates it for the whole document. Again, it would be nice if it just would update. When you update the document, it doesn't do that, so just keep that in mind. And that's of today. You know, Composer is always making, SOLIDWORKS is always making good changes to the software, and that is actually something that's on my list for them to incorporate. So, but as of right now, that's how it's done. Okay, going back to the last few steps here, we'll see that even though I translated these parts out and I, moved them or whatever I did to them, they are going to then update with the new adjustments in the SOLIDWORKS document. Alrighty, and that's what I had for everybody today. Hopefully that was educational, and thank you everybody for joining. And here is our phone number, so USA and Canada. If you have any questions or if you have any anything that you would like to add in future webinars, anything you'd like to see, go ahead and shoot us an email. And the best way to contact us is this info@hawkridgesys.com. That, depending on what the question is, that'll be routed to the appropriate person, and we can get you guys, whatever it is that you want to see in the future. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I'm going to leave this open for the next about 5 minutes. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them right in the GoToMeeting, and I'll be sure to answer them. And if not, this webinar will be available, should be by the end of the week.